around to the boards. Picked up in there now by Ward, and Ward sends it all the way down the ice. Nothing but net. Scores! Dixon Ward queuing off the end of the penalty as Joseph had headed to the box, and the Buffalo Sabres, for the first time in 24 years, are heading to the Stanley Cup final. Gangway Denver, gangway Dallas.
Hello, and how about that? It is Monday night, and your remote has landed on the Molson Empire Sports Report. Coming up on the show, the Syracuse Laxers take an early beating. Could their fourth quarter rally mean more than consolation? And there's little consoling the Phantoms. The Amherst have them on the brink after a controversial overtime win. We'll see how Rochester plans to finish off Philly. But of course, the big story tonight. The Sabres are going to the Stanley Cup Finals, and here's how it transpired in Toronto. Neither goalie saw much action in the first period because it was a very physical start. Eric Rasmussen drills Kevin Adams, the Clarence native. Rob Ray puts Ty Domi up against the post. Domi gets his revenge on Jay McKee, and then Václav Varada flattens Steve Thomas with a hit that sent Thomas briefly to the locker room. The first period ends scoreless, but the second period starts with the Leafs power play. Steve Sullivan takes a shot that finds its way behind Dominik Hasek somehow. Here's how. Take another look. Sullivan's shot hits Schmelik's stick and Jitnik's and finds its way up and over Hasek's shoulder. 1-0 Toronto. 2 minutes later, the Leafs appear to score again. Sergei Berezin bangs home the rebound. But we're going to take another look at this one, and we look and see a leg in the crease. It belongs to Matt Sundin. No goal. And so, 7.5 into the period, Curtis Brown with a great individual effort. He crosses the line and launches a backhander that takes a bite out of Cujo. Warner and Grosek the assists. 1-1. 13 minutes in. Sundin has a wraparound chance. Backhand. It hits the post. Chris King knocks in the rebound. This, too, would be reviewed. But you can imagine what that crowd was like in Toronto. The officials were not about to wipe out two Leaf goals. It was 2-1. Before the third period ends, after a great blue line play by Jitnik, Václav Varada knocks it in with a wig and a whack, and it ties the game at 2 after 2. Third period, midway through. Pat Quinn concerned. Similar play, a Jitnik shot kicked in by Varada. Oh, we're going upstairs again. The refs take a second look, and it could have gone either way, but it is ruled a literal kick in on the rebound and no goal. Just over 2 minutes later, Brian Holzinger with a strong rush. His shot stopped, but Eric Rasmussen, huge goal for the Rook. No review in this one. It was 3-2 Buffalo. The Leafs get a late but legitimate power play, and you saw this play already. Dixon Ward clears it towards the empty net and all the way in. Ward seals it with his 6th. There is finally joy in Buffalo. The Sabres are going to the Cup Finals for the first time in 24 years. The teams exchange their respect for each other. Lindy Ruff and Pat Quinn, Dominic and Cujo. Colin Campbell would present Michael Pekka with the Prince of Wales trophy, but neither he nor any Sabre touches it. More on that interesting fact in a bit, but the Sabres say don't underestimate them in the Stanley Cup Finals.
We're obviously going to the dance, and we're not going to stand on the sidelines. You know, we're looking for a partner, and I think we still got something to prove. You know, it's been written all along that the West has been the dominant team. We've been the underdog. We love the underdog role, and let's just go and take a kick at it. It's been a tough series. You know, you can say it only went 5 games, but our team gave everything they had in games 3 and 4. I asked them to, you know, put it to the wall. The finesse players to play physical. The physical players had to chip in and try to score some goals. And don't leave anything there.
Well, look out Denver and look out Dallas, but we first have to wrap up our coverage in Toronto. Kerry Sayers standing by, and we start with Mike DeGeorge. And Mike, a very exciting time for all the Sabres, certainly, but there are a few guys for whom you really have to feel good.
Yeah, no question about that, Josh, and I will tell you, a very, very composed Sabres locker room. As you mentioned, none of the Sabres touching the Eastern Conference trophy when it was presented to them. When they came into the locker room, you heard a few shouts of joy. It lasted for about a minute, and that was it. We asked a couple of guys how long they would celebrate this. Dixon Ward said about 20 minutes. Lindy Ruff said he wanted to celebrate it a little more, maybe about 8 to 10 hours. But no question, the Sabres are headed to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in 24 years, and it all starts with their goaltender, Dominik Hasek.
Well, of course, I'm very, very happy. It's a great feeling to be in the playoff final, you know, and you know, we are glad, you know, we wrap it up everything tonight in Toronto, and now we can think about the next opponent.
I know Johnny on the spot, lucky to be there, I guess. I mean, Brian made the whole play. He skated the length edge with the puck. He drove the defenseman deep. He turned up, took a good shot on net. You know, the puck just came out the other way, and I was going hard to the net. You know, I was just laying there, and I just swatted at it.
Personally, it's my greatest hockey achievement. You know, something to dream about. I think every player in this room, you know, dreams about the chance to play in the Stanley Cup Finals, and now that we have that chance, it's a great personal and team feeling in this room.
You know, I had a feeling that our team was going to be, you know, a successful team and a good team, and I didn't want to leave, and it was something that I was thinking through my head that the possibility was that I was leaving, and it was something that it was a lot of things thrown at me at once, and you know, I just sort of tried to take some time to get it all in perspective, and you know, that's just the way it was. And it's a tough thing when you get this close and not move on. So you know, today it's a pretty rewarding time for me.
You know, I'm sure everybody's been watching that other series pretty closely, and those two teams are extremely tough and extremely talented, and there's a lot of work ahead of us yet.
Last year,
Take a look at the Sabres the last 2 seasons in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Pretty impressive record, 22-8. Dominating at home, 11-3, almost equally as impressive, 11-5 on the road. They've outscored their opponents the last 2 years in the Stanley Cup playoffs, 96-70. And look at the power play, struggling for most of the regular season, 32 of 158 in the postseason the last 2 years. That is good for 20%. Now, you might not think that the Sabres have too much Stanley Cup experience, but they have a little bit more than you might think. Empire's Kerry Sayers has that story.
Mike, after 3 hard-fought rounds, the Sabres are now within reach of the holy grail of hockey and got there exactly as they said they would, with a total team effort. While Rhett Warrener, Joey Juneau, and Stu Barnes only recently became part of this team, all 3 brought with them Stanley Cup Finals experience and have certainly played an integral role down the stretch, helping the Sabres get to this level.
I think all of us wanted to come in and play that kind of role. We saw these guys play, I mean, in the playoffs last year, and Joey was with Washington last year, so he knows what it's all about. And we all knew that this is the type of team that could go far, and we're showing that, but we got one more step to climb.
Well, when I first got here, I said that this is a very good playoff-style hockey team, and that was certainly the case. You know, I think, you know, like you said, we have some new guys, but I think everybody, the scoring has been spread out, the big plays are spread out, and I think that's part of our success.
We talked a lot about trying to get a little more experience in here to help our younger guys, and I really think that Joe Juneau, Stu Barnes, they've been to the finals before, and even Rhett Warrener. Rhett's only 23 years old, but he did an outstanding job, and he has a tremendous amount of poise.
They've been a part of our team since the first day they stepped in here. Big part of our chemistry. Solidified our lineup. Gave us extra energy, extra speed, extra desire that we needed. And without those guys, we wouldn't be where we are.
Besides the 3 newest Sabres, there are several others who've been to the big dance, and all of them say the Sabres are in for a heck of a ride.
We can enjoy it for a few days here and sit back and relax. But I'll tell you what, this is what it's all about. They thought they saw a lot of media this round. Wait till you get to the next round.
You know, you got to enjoy the moment. We've said all along that it's a fun time of year. You've got to enjoy it. We want them to enjoy it for the moment, but we got to get our feet back on the ground and go to work.
The Sabres now return back to Buffalo and begin the task of preparing for the winner of the Colorado-Dallas series and the start of the finals, which could begin as early as this weekend. Mike, now back over to you.
Last time the Sabres went to the Stanley Cup Finals in 74-75, the Knox family owned the team. Obviously now it is the Rigas family, but very interesting after the game in the Sabres locker room, both families were side by side congratulating one another. We asked Mr. Rigas following the game in the locker room if he thought that the Sabres would reach this point so quickly.
Well, you know, I didn't think that I would ever get to this point sometime, but because it's such an extraordinary event, it's it's so difficult to reach out there, but here we are. But I'm kind of going back to, you know, one thought that occurs to me has been reoccurring is that when I first joined the team about 4 years ago, and I asked John Muckler as he was going over the lineup, I said, how long do you think it'll take us to really compete for the Stanley Cups? And he said 4 or 5 years, and here we are. And I'm thinking that was very prophetic, and yes, we've added to the teams and all of that.
What were your thoughts of the final few seconds as the clock was winding down and you realized that the team was headed to the Stanley Cup Finals?
My thoughts were all of the people that had made a contribution for many years to pull it all together, truly. You know, and I won't go through all the details, but there were bits and pieces that came through from management, ownership, you know, and the people that keep, and then what happens in the trades that Darcy made at the end, and when it all put together, so I'm thinking about how important they were to all this puzzle and equation. So, but beyond that, I'm also thinking, really and truly, as important it is for the team, as important it is for the coaching, I really believe in my heart that the fans of Buffalo, it's what all about, and the people of Western New York, and I'm so happy for them.
And still one step to go.
One step to go, and I think we surprised a lot of people up to this point, and we may surprise some other people later on, hopefully.
Dominic Hasek was asked after the game who they would like to face, either Dallas or Colorado. He said that a couple of the guys had discussed it actually yesterday after practice, and he said that both teams would be tough to play, and it would be an interesting matchup that will develop in the next couple of days. Now, most of the action, or just about all the action, was here at the ACC, but Josh, there was some action back in Buffalo, too.
Yeah, Mike, that's exactly right. I don't think the fans care if it's Dallas or Denver because they're already outside Marine Midland Arena in line for tickets, and I understand that you have some information on when those tickets go on sale.
The tickets go on sale tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock at Marine Midland Arena and some other locations. Fantastic. Sam, the record man. You can buy a maximum of 4 tickets to any one game. There, you can also call at 1-888. You saw the phone number there. There are the prices for the seating levels at $200, $111. For the first level, $100, $104. For the second level, 100 level, $93. The third level and the 100 level, $85. 300, the first level, $72, $57, and the final price is $60. Again, they go on sale tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, starting at the box office and other locations. Coming up a bit later on the show, Josh, we talked about this, and we'll hear from the Sabres about this. A very, I think, intriguing moment when the Eastern Conference Trophy, the Prince of Wales Trophy, was presented to the Buffalo Sabres. Michael Peca, the captain, was out there. He did not touch that trophy, didn't barely look at it, and none of the other Sabres touched that trophy. We will talk to them later in the show about that coming up. Josh, back to you.
Okay, Mike, we look forward to that very much.
We go back to Toronto now to continue our coverage of the Buffalo Sabres because they are going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Mike DeGeorge and Kerry Sayers join us again from Toronto. And guys, you noted as I did, no Sabre touched that Prince of Wales trophy. Clearly, they've not reached their goal yet.
No question about that, Josh. It was sort of like the plague. I will tell you before we get to that, we have some frustrated Leaf fans behind us. So if things get out of hand, there you go. We'll be prepared for it. You know, we go back to last year, the Eastern Conference Finals at the Marine Midland Arena, when the Washington Capitals defeated the Sabres in 6 games and clinched the Eastern Conference Championship, won the Prince of Wales. A number of their players, including Dale Hunter, Joey Junot, all touched the trophy, all paraded around just a bit. But tonight, when that trophy was presented at center ice following the game, not one Sabre, and that includes the captain, would touch that trophy.
It's a conference final trophy. It wasn't the Stanley Cup. Stanley Cup's a trophy that you work to touch and hold over your head and all that fun stuff. So, you know, it's great. It feels really good inside to have made this step off of last year and move on to the Stanley Cup final.
It was kind of something we had talked about before that, you know, teams that have, it was kind of a, you know, an omen that, you know, when if you touch it and made a big deal about it on the ice, that they went on into the finals and they weren't successful. So we're not taking any chances. We're just going to leave that thing right where it is, and we'll look at it later.
You know, I didn't even see a trophy out there.
here, to be honest with you. We're just wanting to keep it very level-headed. We haven't won the big prize yet, so we're very excited and want to do most of our celebration in the room. And I think we've been a class act the whole way here, and I think we're from players all the way up to the organization. And to do it on their home ice is probably not the way to handle it. To get all excited and out of hand, we come in the dressing room, we respect their fans and their players, and we'll go on from there.
Colin Campbell gave me heck about that. He said, you screwed up my presentation, so hopefully he'll get another shot at it.
But a pretty significant sign, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't know whether it was conscious or not, but I think everyone knows that, you're in this for one thing. It's the Stanley Cup, and it's not just like the conference final and the trophy, but it's the Stanley Cup is what it's all about. So.
When the Sabres begin the Stanley Cup Finals this weekend, they will open on the road, much like they did back in the 74-75 season. They lost the first two games in Philadelphia by scores of 4-1 and 2-1. But I will tell you that the Sabres probably should have stolen one of those two games if it hadn't been for Bernie Parent, the Flyers goaltender, who was unbelievable. The Sabres came back and won Game 3 in overtime on a Rene Robert goal in overtime in the fog. The Flyers would eventually, though, win the series on Sabres home ice, winning the Game 6 by a score of 2-0. Now, we talked about, Kerry, the Sabres, the players themselves keeping composure, but not everybody kept their composure.
No, they certainly didn't. Their families had no such thing in mind. They had no reason whatsoever for them to contain their excitement. I had a chance to talk to a number of the families, wives, girlfriends, after the game, and they were beaming.
Right from the start of his career, we were hoping he'd get this far. Probably more excited than I am right now, but it was fun.
You always believe. Yeah, you don't get where you are unless you believe. Yeah. It's still numbing, though. You can believe, but when it actually happens, wow. Oh, it's just the most wonderful feeling I've had in my life. I've waited for this for 12 years, and it's finally happened.
Oh, it's incredible. This whole playoff series, all the playoffs have been exciting, so it was great to be here and experience it with them. I think it's amazing that they've made it this far, and we're going to make it all the way. Yeah!
Now, some of the guys afterwards saying they needed anywhere from 20 minutes, and then you go from Lindy Ruff saying anywhere from 8 to 10 hours to celebrate. But I'll tell you this, we will not see a full-out celebration from this team until they accomplish their goal. They are a team on a mission, and until then, we won't see as much as we expect.
Yeah, very surprising, very, very focused hockey team, and it's still a very young team. I think the youngest team right now and the biggest team that will head to the Stanley Cup Finals. It's starting to rain here in Toronto, but it cannot rain on the Sabres parade tonight. They are headed to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in 24 years. It's either Colorado or Dallas. Let the fun begin. For Kerry Sayers, Mike DeGeorge, now back to our Buffalo studios, and Josh Morak.
All right, guys, thanks very much. Want to mention, if Denver wins tomorrow night, they will start the Stanley Cup Finals on Saturday. When we come back on the Sports Report, our plays of the week, and we'll wrap up our coverage right after this.
This is the one that started it all, Buffalo Wrestling Legends 4, June 11th, Marine Midland Arena. The finest the WCW has to offer. A three-way no-disqualification bout featuring Goldberg, Sting, and Diamond Dallas Page. Randy Savage in a grudge match versus Ric Flair. Plus Malenko, Benoit, Kidman, Rey Mysterio Jr., Conan, Cisco Inferno, Hacksaw Jim Dugan, and the Barbarian. Plus the beautiful Nitro Girls and DJ Rand. Tickets on sale now, Marine Midland Arena, and all fantastic locations.
There's this place you only think you know, just like no place you've ever known. A majestic place that sets sail to the center of your heart. A wonderland of the things you love. A magical place where dreams really do come true. What did you expect? This is New York.
Europe is made up of players from the National Football League. Most of the time, they're players that have played outstanding college football and are in the development stage of their NFL careers.